Hello, and welcome to the Off-Meta Umineko Read-Along podcast, the weekly podcast where I guide my friends and first-time readers through my favorite story of all time, the highly acclaimed murder mystery visual novel Umineko When They Cry. We're discussing its narrative and themes, and they work together with our community to try and solve its various mysteries. Hope you'll all join us on this exciting journey as we delve into the Witch's Cat Box. I'm Kyle J, and joining me on our one-way trip to Rokkenjiima, we have our readers, James Capelli, Ben, Becca, and Hayley. Welcome, y'all. So, how was your read this week?
Alarming, confusing, up is right, cats and dogs living together.
In a box, yeah.
Concrete.
It took a turn. That's for sure. I didn't think that this was gonna happen until episode 5.
You could say it spiraled.
Yeah.
That's a joke about the staircase. Makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, I got you, Hayley. Yeah.
What staircase? The staircase in this reading?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
In the underground bunker thing, yeah.
The unknown location bunker that we'll get to, I'm sure.
What do you all think about the new character? Or the ascension of a character, I should say.
Yes, I don't know what to make of it yet.
I don't like her.
Explains why we've had a new thumbnail.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You snuck that one in there, Kyle.
Yeah, we delayed recording long enough that we got to this part before I had to upload the thumbnail of the of the new witch.
Wild.
It was a wild read this week. I feel like it's like that every week, but I don't know. It was, and yet it also really wasn't.
I'm worried, like, how can the story keep amping up what's going on? I don't know. And there's still so many mysteries of what's going on. Like, I'm sure it's possible. But I also feel like with this, what's left? like the rest of chapter 3 has to be resolution with how this episode reading ends, right?
Maybe.
Yeah, we'll see.
I do think it's interesting that they do set the game board up in a way that's easier for the reader to understand, which I enjoy.
Yeah.
Because episode 2 was very confusing and very witchy. And now, even with their terrible explanation of Schrodinger, they actually make a lot of things click into place.
We also have concrete win conditions now.
Yeah.
I'm still so confused, as far as the meta stuff goes.
I'm confused, but I have a goal. I have a goal, unlike episode 2, where I felt like it did feel like everything's useless. I felt like Battler in episode 2, and I never want to feel like Battler. So, like...
Wise.
It's... Yeah, I know, right? It just doesn't... It gives me something to really focus on, which I think was spoiled to me a little bit earlier than other people because of something I messaged Kyle when someone's like... someone said something that Schrodinger's cat box finally makes... That piece makes sense, which was there is a fantasy and a real for both of these.
Yeah.
And there are 2 realities.
I'm kind of sad that our sea cat Umineko cat box theory has been disproved with
you don't know yet.
I guess.
What do you mean disproved?
There could be layers to the cat box.
Well, it's just Schrodinger's cat. It doesn't have to do with seagulls.
But we don't know if the seagulls are going to cry until we open the box to see if there's a seagull in there.
But here's the thing, the box has been opened twice now, and they've cried both times. So, because when they cried, there was no one left alive.
It's true, yeah. In the end scrolls, they do say. Yeah.
How many times can we open this box? That's the real question.
Yeah, at this point, oh gosh.
We're still sea cats. It's okay, everybody.
All right, don't worry.
Open box, sea cat.
Yes!
I'll leave this a bit more for when we do like the episode 3 message bottle. But I've been trying to wonder what character did they talk about like scrapping that they were going to introduce into this. And like I have a couple theories. I know it doesn't really matter, but it's like been a fun thing for me to wonder what sort of character would have still been more confusing than what they did here in this chapter that, you know, kind of cleared things up and made some sense as to what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's got to either be like another demon or some other person ascends, something like that.
For episode 4, are you saying? I'm confused.
The author rewrote season 3 after feedback from episode 2 was that people didn't understand what's going on. What is the point? So he rewrote chapter 3 to try to make it more palatable.
I thought you were talking about a new character. Sorry.
He said there was a character that he was going to introduce into chapter 3 that he completely scrapped.
Oh, that's a shame.
So I'm wondering who that was. What purpose could they have served? And who's new? I feel like who's new is got to be this Eva version that ascends, but who knows?
Well, you're always welcome to speculate on this podcast, Capelli, despite how much we harp on you.
It was Kyle.
Yeah, Kyle was the character.
Yeah, too confusing.
But yeah, this episode really had, I think, has the biggest whiplash, I would say. Because they really wanted to hammer. Like, I'm really glad I was able to split these episodes up this way. We really got episode 2 as being like this is just so much magic to make you go like, what is even the point of this? Like, we're just in magic world. And episode 3 that we're in now is kind of like, oh, actually, here is their explanation of how we can still like continue to have mystery elements in this.
I appreciate that a lot, and I think it makes every complaint I've had about the magic sequences up until this point a little moot. Like, and I'm okay with that. Like, I'm okay with like being like, this is their way of explaining what happened. Like, even yes, it is their fantasy version of what happened. I'm okay with them saying that now. I'm okay with them giving me some fantastical thing, because I have always been like, oh, but why? And the answer is, we will figure out why. And that's the why is the important thing. Like, what's Battler's side of it? What's the other reality, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Well, this week, we are continuing episode 3, Banquet of the Golden Witch, with about 3 hours of the VN, ending on the line, it was just as though Battler's and Beato's applause had been the final thing needed for her succession, which is videos 42 through 45 of the YouTube playlist. If you've not caught up to that point yet, go ahead and stop the podcast now and catch up before rejoining us. Or if you're just listening to us along for the ride, welcome aboard. We resume our story in the dining room of the mansion. It's 6 a.m., and the siblings have only just now finished putting together all of their plans and contingencies to fight back against whatever this Beatrice person has planned. Leaving the room to refresh themselves before breakfast, Kyrie notices a horrible stench pervading the mansion. Splitting up to investigate, and to get a hold of the servants, they find the source of the smell is the boiler room. However, it is locked and has a creepy magic circle painted on it in what seems like blood. They find the same graffiti on the parlor, which is locked as well, and begin to suspect that Kenzo has ordered the servants to perform some kind of prank. Rosa confirms that the children are all right and finds Dr. Nanjo in the guest house, who likewise has no idea what is going on. In the mansion, they're unable to contact Kenzo and find 3 other rooms similarly locked and marked. Going to the servant room to get the keys, they find that all the rooms marked with the magic circles have their keys missing. They decide to break the window in the parlor and enter there first. Inside, they find the corpse of Shannon.
So, the first thing I noticed about this opener was that actually, instead of red paint, we actually get the word blood for these magic circles.
Interesting. Like
blood, but we get blood. I was so fixated on that in episode 1 that it stood out to me immediately. And so I have extensive critique about the writing in this.
Oh.
But this them breaking into the parlor, the way it's written, it really makes it sound like they all just go through the window together. And it made me laugh so hard having that visual.
Don't they? Oh, you mean like at the same time?
At the same time, literally at the same time is how it was written. And like, it's like they entered the parlor together. I'm like, how? Through one window? 6 people?
There's a small bit in Clue, which is my favorite movie, where both Colonel Mustard and Miss Scarlet are like, no, after you, and then they both jump into a tight space and squeeze at the same time. So imagining that with all the siblings, yes, I enjoy that visual.
Exactly. I lost it for like 5 minutes just picturing all of these people climbing through a window together at the same time. I know that's not what they intended, but I really felt that was super important to share with everybody.
I guess I'll bring this up here because there's so many other things to talk about as this story continues in the chat and this reading. But the paradigm shift from most of the adults being sacrificed to now is so different with how they handle these murders, right?
Yep.
Everybody is very much in like, all right, hunker down. We're gonna stay safe until the morning, but it's not super filled with paranoia, right? Because I guess like I talked last episode about how everyone's just kind of accepting that Beatrice exists and is on the island and all that, as compared to chapters 1 and 2, where it's a whole different thing. That they're just like, nope, someone's out there who killed the servants. We know it's not us, and it's not the kids. The only other person it could have been is Kinzo, but he's also dead.
Could be Nanjo, technically.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
They never really talk about that.
Yeah.
He says he goes to bed, yeah, and he wakes up fresh and nobody really suspects
Sure.
it. But no, it's a fair point, right? He where's his alibi?
Yeah.
They're not really looking for alibis. They're like, someone claimed to be here and then people died. It's probably them.
Yeah. I am a certified Dr. Nanjo stamp.
Mm-hmm.
But I am willing to accept that he could be an evil mastermind in disguise and actually be pulling a lot of the strings behind a lot of this.
I love it, Ben.
Well, at this point, he's the only character we genuinely know nothing about, other than he's an old friend of Kinzo.
Correct.
We know what the deal with Kumasawa is, finally.
Finally.
We know what the deal with all the furniture is.
Yeah.
Every scene with Kinzo, his hand is pretty open for what he's up to.
I really would love for him to like turn it up to 11 at some point, because give the fat bald guy some attention, please. But I really want him to really show his colors, but we don't really get much of him. But the reason we don't get much of him is why I think that he could be involved in what's coming up, which is the locked room within 6 locked rooms, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
We'll call it the locked room labyrinth.
I like that.
I guess he's had a couple of opportunities, such as finding the key on Jessica, which I think was still convenient. Saying that
he's always the one to declare everybody dead.
Cannon was dead when Cannon wasn't dead, provided the dude had a big hole in his chest, put his fingers in his chest, and was like, yeah, I could see how a practitioner would say he's dead when something else seems to be going on. Yeah, I mean, there's the door's open for it.
That may even be fantasy too, and not even reality.
So if what you're telling me is if we put Nanjo into a box, he's both good and evil.
Yes, there are worlds that we do not know.
Yeah,
both realities exist.
So, just one more thing about this opener. Oh my god! So although I do have extensive critique about the writing, there are some things that I really deeply enjoy. So they said, like when he woke up, Rudolph said, "I'd say it's pretty gentle considering we should count ourselves lucky it's rain that's falling and not spears." Talking about the typhoon. And like we as readers had just seen giant ass spears outside. So my first thought was, what the did they see it? Like,
yeah, that's the whole thing going into the street. I'm like, no one's addressing the towers or the ground shaking. So okay, so it didn't happen from their perspective.
Yeah, but did it?
Well, it was inside of the protective barrier that Beatrice erected around the Rose Garden. You're gonna
say all this other stuff about the Battler and the meta stuff is so stupid. To me, that's stupid. But I think like that's gonna be the point.
Yeah.
Which is like, that doesn't make any fucking sense. Like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Oh, I put it in a barrier. Get the fuck out of here with your lazy bullshit. Beato.
Agreed.
Like, I hope it's mystery. I hope it's mundane. Because if it's magical, it's a lot of squandered opportunity.
Well,
I already know how the story's gonna end. The story's gonna end in a, what do you think, reader? I don't need to commit to anything. I'm the author of the show.
Capelli, welcome to the author's pissing me off train.
Yeah, I know.
I've been there for a while.
Do you want me to tell you if that's the case or not?
No, I'm enjoying it.
I do not think you'll be dissatisfied with the ending.
I am ready to face that reality if that's what happens, okay? thing. I don't need to know.
I relate to Battler's plight a lot, even though, like, the whole, like, saying there's nothing magical, how do you explain anything? But, like, despite all that stuff, which is why I liked him as a character initially, starting to lose me a little bit. But, like, when you get explanations like that is which I'm just like, shut the fuck up. I just...
See, that's how I felt at first, and now I don't feel that way.
I don't know. We'll get into it.
Like, I kind of said earlier, it's like, the magic stuff makes a lot more sense to me, and I'm totally fine with them including it now. Now that we've had this reading.
I just like, what's this? Oh, this is the reason, or you wouldn't believe me anyway. My response would be, you're gonna have to try so much harder than that.
Yeah, that's fair. I enjoy the story portion of it. I thought it got very weird, which was neat.
In the meta world, Beatrice appears and attempts to draw the attention of Battler, who is still reeling for being shown such blatant magic earlier. He shouts at Beatrice to leave him alone and flees into the Rose Garden. There he wonders if he'd actually lost this game long ago, and it was just his hubris that kept him thinking he stood on even footing with Beatrice. With the closed room murders, he could see how maybe there might be some human trick behind it all, but these outright magic battles happening right in front of his very eyes, he had no way to respond. Suddenly, the notorious PKB appears. Seeing the Battler has almost completely given up, she decides to teach him a bit about magic. She asks him about a variety of old superstitions and alchemical theories that used to explain various phenomena. While people in the past didn't know that the bonfire they used to perform their rain dance caused a thermal updraft that would cause storm clouds to appear, they still knew that doing so would help bring rain. Whether you explain it with a magic ritual, a scientific theory, or God's love, the outcome is the same. She goes on to claim that inside of the Braun tubes inside of the televisions, there are tiny gremlins that use magic to make the picture appear on the screen. Until you break open a Braun tube and check, the scientific theory of luminescent electrodes and the magical theory of gremlins are both equally valid, despite there only being one real truth. Until you open the cat box and check, two conflicting truths can exist at the same time. Apparently, the island of Rokkenjiima has been shifted into the exact midway point between the real and the magical, and both explanations are currently possible. The scenes that Beatrice is showing Battler are merely her case for the magical side and the ongoing trial of what really occurred on Rokkenjiima during those 2 fateful days. Only observation can collapse the waveform and discern the one real truth. However, the inability to actually look inside the cat box is what makes this a fair game between Battler and Beatrice. Battler thanks PKB, who offers to continue to advise him from time to time. Asking what he should call her from now on, she decides to go by Virgilia, so named for Virgil, Dante's guide through purgatory to find Beatrice. Reinvigorated, Battler returns to his fight with Beatrice. She asks him once again for his response to the magic battle she showed him, to which he says, "Battle? What battle?" After all, here in the Rose Garden now, that we can actually see inside the Braun tube, there are no signs of any kind of magical battle having taken place here. Beatrice claims that she fought inside a magical barrier so as not to destroy the Rose Garden. Battler asserts that with no tangible results, her claim is no more valid than his claim that nothing happened. Beatrice is annoyed that her master must have taught him the multiplanar world collapsation technique of Schrodinger's catbox. With the greatest thorn in his side removed, Battler is finally ready to take on this game's first Twilight.
Go ahead, Hayley. Go ahead.
Go, Hayley. I'm not allowed to, so it has to be on you.
All right. I'll start us off. I'll kick us off. So, well, first of all, for our potentially we might have younger readers, Braun tubes are also known as cathode ray tubes, and they are what made television so freaking enormous in the olden times when I was a child.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what they're talking about when she's talking about gremlins inside the Braun tubes. That it's the big ass tubes that were inside the back of TVs before you were born. So, Battler. You know, I started this scene actually starting to feel sorry for him, like genuinely. And him saying, "I'm gonna make you wait for all stinking eternity."
Mm-hmm.
It was like, yeah, get a Battler. That'll really get under her skin. And then it just got back to just battling. It's just so infuriating. In my notes, I literally have in all caps a line that says, "Oh my god, Battler, you dumb fuck." And I was so angry that I didn't even bother correcting my typo on Fox, so it says UFCK.
At least he didn't say no good, it's no damn good, you know? So you missed, we avoided that one.
It's useless, it's all useless.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, well, that's true. But like, oh man, how? So this has got to be a failing of the author, because the Schrodinger's cat thing is, I feel like okay, yes, it's the complex thing when you start to unpack it, right? But it's a relatively simple theory that we're all taught about, like before we even hit puberty for the most part, I think, in its basic terms, right? Like, we've all heard about it by the time we're teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
So he was just really, really getting under my skin that he just didn't get it. And it took so long for us to get to the point where he's like ready to fight again.
I think the only thing it's got to be he's trying to rationalize how that's relevant to what he's been going through. So yeah, I get that, but I'm also with you.
It's not just that, it's that the game has to explain it to the reader. Because this is something that I've come across a lot in the writing, is that they will introduce an idea, and then, which you can kind of observe through the dialogue and the way the characters are interacting with each other, and then it will take like several slides to then explain in great detail exactly all the implications of the things that you just watched. And it's like, yeah, I got that by watching it, but you're spelling it out for me. And I think something like Schrodinger's box, where it is integral to the playing of the game, they have to introduce it in a way where even if somebody comes to read this who's never heard of Schrodinger's box, they can understand what's going on. So Battler has to be the audience stand-in.
Yeah.
As much as it's infuriating.
There is a concept in sitcoms where very rarely is anyone's favorite character the main character, because they're the ones that usually have to drive the plot forward. And when you're watching a sitcom, you're usually okay just watching the characters bullshit around. And the character I'm mostly thinking of is Eric Foreman from That 70s Show, right? It's fun to watch all the kids sit around and get high and make jokes and just be goofy, but Eric's role is to move things forward, so people don't usually like Eric the most. I'm seeing that so much with Battler here, as far as like being the standalone person that needs to move the battle of wits, of magic, whatever you want to call it, forward, that it's like, I feel like, yes, it could have been written better or differently or anything, or having somebody fill the PKB role differently. Like, I feel like you could have gotten Maria in this or something to have some sort of back and forth on the side of it's not magical. Until now, like, that's finally when I started to kind of clue in a bit. Okay, now it's interesting because you've got these two people like conspiring, like, so this is what it's going to be, right? Yes, I think this is okay. So this is our argument. I'm enjoying that a lot more than just Battler as a standalone.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, like,
I think that's what I was going to say next, was that I think PKB or Virgilia really makes Battler's character better in that one scene, and actually makes Battler like much more tolerable to me, at least, by grounding him. And I think that's honestly what he probably needed for me to enjoy him more as a character, because, and I guess if you want to look at it from his perspective, yeah, he's dealing with some really fucked up shit right now, and like, I understand the spiraling. I've spiraled over much lesser in my life, but it's having someone there to actually be like, no, you're not crazy, you just need to reframe the way that you're thinking about this, then makes him a lot more tolerable as a character when he's a little bit more confident, but not necessarily cocky.
Yeah. He's a character that's better as a foil to someone or something else.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing about Battler is that he's an 18-year-old.
Yep. There's also the age. Yeah.
He is an 18-year-old guy who has a lot of swagger and thinks he's right about everything. And
hormones. You can't forget those unbridled hormones.
No, you sure can't. But the other thing is that Beatrice has already had a mentor and 1,000 years to practice her magic, and has been purposely toying with Battler this whole time, not giving him all of the pieces of information. He has been operating
well in the dark,
like, without even knowing what the game board looks like. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So now Virgilia is trying to even the playing field a little bit, and now that Battler actually understands what's going on, it makes him more of a compelling person to push back against Beatrice, because he can counter her better.
I'm going to bring this up now because you reminded me of this observation I had, which is starting kind of in this scene. Beatrice begins acting way more juvenile
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's just out of nowhere to me.
It's the presence of her master. It's a regression thing, right?
It's gotta be.
That's a common thing. Yeah. It's like I love the PKB Virgilia. Sorry, I really like PKB. I'm here for it, Kyle. Calls her child. She literally never uses her name through this whole bit of reading. Child every time. I haven't seen her use Beatrice, and I think it might be because she has some kind of regret about giving it to her in the first place.
That's the only time she says Beatrice is because I regret giving you that title. So she acknowledges that's your name, but never uses it.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing. How does the title of Beatrice get passed, as we've seen, is that Ava is going to solve Beatrice's riddle. She's going to win Beatrice's game. So there's so many Beatrices. What did Beato do to inherit the name from PKB?
From what we know, it almost sounds like she willingly gave the title over.
We don't know that.
But that's what's alluded as far as what we know. Like,
that doesn't mean that Beato didn't best her in some way.
Sure.
In a sneaky way, in a backhanded way, in a lazy way, because everything that we've seen from her this reading is she's a lazy sneak and she's a cheater. She's asking her teacher for hints and she's a sore loser. And she is a child.
Yep.
Which I think she's just been doing a very good job of hiding this whole time, because this whole time she's been petulant, she's been rash, she loves toying with Battler, which is such a childish thing to do. Yep. And we're just starting to see more of her mask slip now, and I love it.
Me too.
That was the most passionate I've heard Becca in this entire podcast series so far, which has been great.
I'm always passionate about Beato.
I believe you. I'm wondering, and I wrote this down somewhere later, and I'll move it to here. What is Virgilia's goal? Because we don't really get a goal. She helps here, and then also later in the reading, which of course we'll get to, helps Beato. So, like, why? What is the goal? Just to evade boredom even more? That's boring. Like, it's boring to me.
I think she's probably planning to get the Beatrice title back.
I believe you. But what does that mean for our characters?
Brother, what does the end of this chapter mean for our characters? I don't fucking know. We've been given no explanation as far as like what anything means, like how is Beato still going to be a magical being? Probably. She's still going to engage in this game somehow, I guess. But where does Eva fit in? Like, so when we know how that's going to play out, we'll have a better idea of what it would mean for Virgilia to get the title back if she is able to, wants to. How does she do it?
True.
You weren't here when I said this, I don't think, Ben, but that's exactly what I said about Renove, like last week or the week before, is that we have no idea what he wants.
Yep.
Or what his motives are. And so that is why I love him and Virgilia on the sidelines, just kind of like commentating like they're Statler and Waldorf in the Muppets.
What a great comparison. I love that.
That's very good.
They're the most intriguing characters to me right now because I know nothing about them.
I love them so much.
And Dr. Nanjo.
Yeah. Whenever I'm reminded about him, yeah.
I'd love to say for me it's Kinzo, but the dude's had so many opportunities to be interesting as far as he doesn't care about the story, he cares about himself, which it's fine, but I'm just sad that he could have had more relevance and more intrigue, which is still there. I don't know.
See, one of you just called the Epitaph the puzzle Beatrice's puzzle, and it's not, it's Kinzo's. Kinzo wrote that.
Yep.
It's Kinzo's riddle. That's like...
It's Kinzo's riddle, but it's Beatrice's game, probably based on the context of how everything started between the two of them decades ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why does Beato want it solved so badly?
Don't know.
Because she's freed. Probably the term Beato is forced to live under Kinzo's thumb in some fashion. Now she might be free of that. because she seems very willing to let it go.
Oh, I don't like that for Eva.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah,
we'll get there.
What does that mean for Ava? Yeah.
The only other thing I want to talk about before we move on is that someone earlier, I think it was Becca, had theorized that Beatrice's magic has to seem feasible to mundane means in order for her magic to work. So now that we have the island is halfway between real and magic with the Schrodinger's box, whatever, it leads a lot of implication that is probably pretty close, right? If we theorize that her creation of the typhoon on the island creates a pocket dimension, right? Which she said she's able to do because the magic battle there's no evidence of it, right? Why does she not just create a box where it's completely magical? The only place that exists so far is the metaverse, and the only evidence we see of that is her tormenting of Rosa with her eating her siblings over and over. But even then, that's just what she said she was doing with reviving them to make enough tongue for a tongue salad, etc., etc. Even that has to be somewhat mundane seeming, because it could have been from anybody.
Sure.
What I said, I don't think I said exactly that. Somebody else might have said something along those lines, but
I think that might have been a community theory. I think Jules might have said something along those lines.
Yeah. My theory from the last episode was that in the world, magic was possible until it was disproven kind of thing. I didn't exactly say that it was a pocket dimension where everything is possible.
No, that's me.
But
that's me.
I was basically like, the magic can exist until Battler definitively disproves it, essentially. But they are stuck in this limbo.
But if he disproves it, then it was never magic in the first place.
Well, yeah.
Which is the whole point of the Schrodinger's box.
Then none of it ever happened, and they were in purgatory the whole time, just like anybody who doesn't understand law.
I'm just going to say, I fucking hate Schrodinger's box. And I don't just mean in the context of the story. I mean, like, ever since I kind of wrapped my head around it, I'm like, that's dumb. It's just a dumb theory. Your perception of reality does not define what reality itself is.
Yeah, it's incredibly misunderstood, I will say. In fact, I could give you a big, long description about about it if you'd like.
Please go ahead, Kyle.
I think you should. I think it's a good segue.
All right, quick aside about Schrodinger's cat box. Schrodinger's cat box is a thought experiment originally put forward as a critique of the concept of quantum superposition. A cat is trapped in a box with a device that will kill the cat if a single atom of radioactive material happens to decay. Atom decay in radioactive material is a truly random event at a quantum level, and thus, under the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics, would result in a quantum superposition of the atom both decaying and not decaying at any given moment until the outcome is observed. Schrodinger's criticism is that under that interpretation, the cat in the box would then take on the quantum superposition of being alive and dead at the same time, until the box is opened and the outcome is determined. However, as we now know, any measurement of a quantum superposition collapses the waveform into a single distinct outcome, and that measurement does not need to be observed by a conscious being, as proven by the double-slit experiment. Therefore, in the Schrodinger's cat box scenario, the waveform actually collapses at the point of the Geiger counter attempting to detect the decay of the radioactive particle, and thus the release of the poison that would kill the cat is never in a quantum superposition in the first place. Now, Umineko seems to be using more of a many-worlds interpretation in which every quantum state's wave function collapse exists in its own infinitely branching, parallel, non-interacting world, and so by observing the outcome, we are simply learning which world we happen to be in. In this interpretation, there would be a world in which the cat is dead, and a world in which the cat is alive. While the truth of which world we are in is already set, we cannot know so until we open the box and verify. Until then, both possibilities are valid interpretations of the state of the cat box.
Which we all learned and understood before we hit puberty.
Yeah, as we all know.
Yeah, of course.
Because the MCU. It's the TVA.
Thanks, Dr. Banner.
Yeah.
Yeah. So...
yeah, there's a lot of woo about quantum stuff.
I do hope the story goes into the double-slit experiment, because that is a much more fascinating phenomenon.
Yes, that's one of the ones that legitimately is spooky.
Because it's something we've actually attempted to measure and observe, and that's the whole point of why the universe is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
How the universe changes based on what we actually see or not is... it's so cool. So if you start using magic as that, oh dear author, I'll be very happy. At that point, we're getting sci-fi. All right? And therefore, I would have been right from the start.
Capelli's dreams have all come true.
Yes.
Amazing.
On the game board, the children are awoken and informed of the 6 deaths. Holding up in the guest house, each of the adult siblings carries a short-barreled rifle from Kenzo's collection. After discovering Kinzo's body in the furnace and the 5 servants scattered around the mansion, they had sealed up the rooms, not even letting George and Jessica see the corpses of their beloveds. Apparently, another letter had been left in the boiler room that reads as follows. So there will be no misunderstandings. The game I seek is whether or not you can solve the riddle of the epitaph, not whether you can catch me. If you do not solve the riddle of the epitaph, the pitiful sacrifices will further increase in number. It would be more wise to spend your time solving the epitaph than searching for me. If no one can solve the riddle of the epitaph, no one will survive. If a person appears with skill enough to solve the riddle of the epitaph, I will give them all the gold in the Golden Land, the Yoshimiya family headship, and all of my power. I was the one who succeeded the Yoshimiya family headship from Kinzo-sama, and I look forward to seeing who will receive the headship from me, Beatrice the Golden.
I'm glad we skipped the grief from George and Jessica this time around.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's still there. It's important to note, but we don't need to go through that again. Again, this is something that I'm glad, like, the story in this sense does respect our time as a viewer in this way, which I appreciate.
It does. I was just going to give props to the author for that. There isn't a lot of reiteration of stuff between episodes, at least so far in our third iteration, that has felt unnecessary.
Which, could you imagine, like, trying to read this story and, like, having to take, like, week-long breaks, or even longer, because, like, life happened and you have to come back and be like, what the fuck was happening? I put 40 hours into this and I'm lost again. I'm glad we have our pod.
I've also just been taking it as if we don't see something that's significantly different from, like, the first time they came to the island, then everything is basically following their first trip,
Yes.
except for what we're seeing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a convenient baseline to have when it's a game.
Pretty much until the game begins with the bolt of lightning, right?
Yeah, that's how I see it.
I'm so glad that we're getting less of the cousins, with more of the siblings
Oh, yeah.
for this episode.
Me too.
Like, and there's, with this whole, my opinions on Battler, which I've been talking about extensively in our Discord today. You should join that if you want to see the full
hate
tirade of opinion there. I have found myself missing George because he was also like,
he was a good conduit for your emotions. Yeah.
he was a wonderful outlet for my hate, and Battler is a less wonderful one. He's just frustrating and annoying. So
George is a good character. I mean, it's great.
Two roads diverge in Yellowwood, Hayley.
Let's just not open up that train of thought for me again right now. I'm focused on Battler. It's okay.
You said you were missing him.
I am, but because I hate him.
That's fair.
He can remain in the cat box, where his status of being a good or bad character will forever be undetermined.
I feel like we've barely had a word from George or Jessica or even Maria. We get a little bit from Maria in this one, but nothing.
Yeah, not this episode.
Major.
Yeah, that's true. She's just kind of there.
Yeah, it's very much a parents-focused episode.
Yeah.
I don't think Maria is going to be relevant until probably episode 5 or 6. Like, I think that's when she's really going to become relevant.
Strong disagree.
Yeah, I think you might be right.
I don't think so.
Yeah, she just does a bit of a strop about the TV, I think, in this one, but like that's like all we see.
I think she'll be relevant in this chapter.
Oh, interesting. I don't.
Because Rosa is relevant in this chapter, and things are going to come to a head.
Oh, 100%, but I think it's going to... the way that they come to a head is... My guessing is that the 4 different families are all going to bundle with each other, and they're going to fight, and that's going to harken back to earlier in this episode when they said they would always be friends. Like, that's how I see this playing out, but I see it more as a parent fight more than I see a children fight.
I guess we have 2 different understandings of what it means for her to be relevant in this conversation.
Yes, I think so. I don't see Maria as a main character there, and I think they all take turns to be main characters. Like, Natsui hasn't been a main character since episode 1. Rosa only became a main character at the ending of this reading for this. Like, I don't know. I have not seen Maria be a main character other than right at the end of episode 1 when we get her letter of an older Maria. That was the time, in my opinion, she was the most main character, and we still don't know what that means.
True.
Yeah, I think that she is a main character. I think you're right that we're going to see a lot more of her at some point, but I don't know.
Me too.
When.
I think it's going to be in the latter half of this, though.
Yeah, in the answers
Okay.
Do you guys think we're going to get a time jump?
Yes. 100%. Like that. Like I have thought that we're getting a time jump since the very beginning.
Interesting.
I think episode 5 is going to the answers arc is going to introduce a time jump in some capacity.
So we're basically reading it.
I know nothing about it,
Me too.
but I will agree with you until I don't.
Stephen King's It has a huge time jump, like half of the way through the book.
It has a 27-year.
I can't do horror.
You're. What are we reading?
This is not horror.
It has its moments.
But also, I have screamed at this. So
Kyle has told us about this.
I have legitimately screamed reading this, and Ryan can attest that I screamed bloody murder. So
Was Kinzo's death this time one of them?
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
It absolutely was, and I screamed.
Dude likes to burn to death.
Sure does.
Consistent.
There's got to be some relevance to that.
Consistent asshole.
I think it's actually part of the stuff that he's drinking somehow, but I don't.
Like he's just drinking pure
yeah, just
gasoline.
guzzling pure unleaded.
I
I think he's drinking absinthe.
Genji, give me my petrol.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's green. It smells sickly sweet. Absinthe smells like licorice. I've just been assuming it's absinthe this whole time because also that's very like occulty.
Yeah.
Good shout.
I like absinthe as well. I was like, oh yeah, that's absinthe the first time it was poured out.
Haley and I are on the same page.
Then there's me. I don't drink alcohol, so I don't know what they are.
All you need to do is watch Moulin Rouge.
No.
Alright, back to this story.
So this letter that they find from Beatrice, this isn't like more letters than we usually get from her, is it?
I think so. I don't think we've seen this one before.
Right? A letter between the first and second Twilight?
At least not that's been revealed to us.
Yeah, I don't think we've gotten a letter. There's been a letter later on where she reminds people to solve the epitaph, but I think this is the earliest we've seen that.
With the exception of the letter that she gives Rosa that we never read in chapter 2. Oh wait, no, we did read that one. That letter was found on the table of the death scene of the Six.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we're getting more letters. I think we're just getting them in a different order. I think it probably says in the wiki, but I don't go looking into that.
Don't dare enter that wiki.
No.
Absolutely not.
The only thing I've got from the wiki is the epitaph.
I went looking for Beatrice's voice actress, and something pretty significant got spoiled to me.
Minor really soon. Yeah, it's not insignificant.
I think I got the first episode's letters from the wiki as well, and I was like, I can't do this again, or this is gonna...
Yeah, if you do have something you want me to get for you, just absolutely just ask and I'll go find it for you.
Okay.
Because yeah, that wiki has some things that protect against certain spoilers, but it's not spoiler free for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Such a benevolent witch Kyle is.
Golden Sorcerer, apparently.
Yeah.
And an Endless Witch.
You could be both. Yeah.
I see you, Kyle.
In the meta world, Battler and Virgilia strategize. Virgilia suspects that Beatrice decided to kill the servants first, as they were the most suspicious in the last game. Now that the brute force attack of displaying magic won't work, Beatrice left to show a crime impossible for all 18 on the island. Retaking his seat at the chessboard with Beatrice, Battler begins by reconstructing the crime scenes. The first body found was Shannon's in the parlor. Beatrice gives us Beatrice's locked room definition, which defines a locked room as follows. The term locked room refers to a room where the inside and outside of the room are completely isolated from all travel between them. Of course, no form of intrusion or escape, nor even any interference is possible. That is comprehensive, including the denial of hidden doors, as well as all margin for interference from the outside, including the ability of any objects to fit through any sort of gap in a door or window, radio waves, or even telephone calls. Beatrice says that Shannon's death in the parlor meets this definition. On her body, they find her master key, of which Beatrice confirms in red that there are only 5, as well as an envelope containing the key to a second-floor guest room. Beatrice confirms that for any room key, there is only one such key, and is the only key besides the master key that could open up that room. Following the trail, the adults find the room similarly sealed and marked. Inside this locked room, they find Kumasawa's body, her master key, and the key to a third-floor servant's quarters. Following the same pattern, there they find Gota's body and master key, as well as the key to the second-floor VIP room. There they find Genji's body, his master key, and the key to the boiler room. There they find Kinzo's body, the envelope as described earlier, and the key to the chapel. And finally, there they find Cannon's body, his master key, and the key to the parlor. With each room a locked room, and each containing the only key to the next, as well as all of the master keys, this serves as one giant locked room chain. Beatrice assures us in red that all of the doors and windows of the 6 rooms are normal. No device exists which can lock them without a key, such as an auto-lock. Beatrice is enjoying her battle with Battler, but is annoyed that he is spending more time strategizing with Virgilia. Virgilia confirms that Dr. Nanjo confirmed the deaths of each victim, but only the red truth can guarantee no mistakes were made. Battler requests a repetition, and Beatrice gives him the red. Kinzo, Genji, Shannon, Cannon, Goda, and Kumasawa. These 6 are all dead. She also confirms that there is no one hiding in the 6 rooms. Battler then suspects that one of the victims was fatally wounded, locked the door themselves, and then died inside. Beatrice responds that the 6 died instantly, meaning that once they were attacked, they became incapable of action. With the culprit being inside one of the locked rooms ruled out, Battler then begins looking for how the locked rooms could have been faked or bypassed. Norror steps in and says in red, only the victims are inside the rooms, and no other people exist inside the rooms. And with remote murders excluded by Beatrice's locked room definition, it should be impossible. Battler scoffs and says that Beatrice's definition doesn't rule out things like traps. Beatrice replies that nothing suspicious was found in any of the rooms, so what kind of trap is he talking about? However, Battler refutes the need to explain further. After all, according to a devil's proof, his inability to find or even properly define the supposed trap doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Trap X is a perfectly valid move in this witch's game. Beatrice is forced to respond in red that the 6 were not killed by traps. With Ronneve's help, defines a trap as all devices that can carry out a murder without the direct participation of the person who set it up. Battler finally feels like he and Beatrice are on even footing, and that she is fighting just as hard to prove that she exists as he is to prove that she doesn't. Battler hits on the idea that the chain of the locked rooms is possible if one of the dead is also the culprit. Battler requests that Beatrice repeat that all 6 deaths were homicides, which she initially declines. After Battler declares that this is as good as resigning, she gives the red, none of the 6 committed suicide. Virgilia points out that Beatrice didn't reply exactly how he had requested, causing him to hit on a new theory that in the final death in the chain was some sort of accident. Beatrice begins to respond, but Ronneve prevents her. Virgilia suspects that Beatrice will need to resign rather than risk continuing the argument, as something Battler has said has done serious damage. After cooling her head, Beatrice does indeed resign the first twilight.
This was absolutely 100% my favorite part of this reading. It's exactly why I like reading this. I like seeing all of the thought process and kind of getting more red. Red is good. Red is cool, except for when they use it to say Battler is incompetent, even though it's true.
That was the funniest. That was the best red we've got this whole time. Are you insane?
It just, I just really liked this part because then my puzzle brain is turning, and I'm like, here's information. I love information. Give me information. So there's that, and then it's really nice to have it just not be Beatrice just pummeling Battler into submission as much as she might want to. I think that having the extra characters there to actually make it much more palatable, and also make Battler much more palatable as a character. He works better when he can bounce off others and not just bash his head into a brick wall.
Yeah, that's true. Although this was my favorite part of this reading for a very different reason to you, Ben. It was Beatrice just basically unraveling at the end there. It was just, I enjoyed that so much.
This is where you really start to see
the voice
her
acting with Ronneve's like hand over her mouth. Just,
that was really good too. I like that.
It was wonderful. So that was why it was my favorite bit. For much,
very different,
less interesting reasons.
What was it that he stopped her from saying?
Oh, she started saying no something.
Though that no one died from an accident?
Yeah. Very interesting that she couldn't say that. Like, it seems like she was physically capable of saying it, but she wasn't allowed. It probably would have caused another stalemate, and that's why Ronneve stepped in, right?
Yeah, he's trying to keep her from playing too much of her hand too early because she's getting hot-headed.
Yeah, Virgilia implies that there's not anything necessarily wrong with that statement, but that if the conversation had continued, she would have been checkmated because of where the conversation was going. And so it was best to cut her losses now before Battler was led in a direction that would give him too much info.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think that's kind of explained later, right? When she's talking to Beato.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
I do like her.
I just didn't expect the whole, is magic real? Is it mundane, whatever, to just go basically into philosophy, quantum theory, and legalese, which is like, that's what the red text is. It's legalese at that point. Because even then, I can't help but think, okay, Ronove steps in and says no other people exist inside the rooms. And if I have to stick with what I've been saying in previous episodes of our podcast, how is he defining people?
Yeah, I think it's fair.
I think that's the one question mark that we have, because you call it legalese and I call it game terms.
Yep, I agree with that.
Legally, it is game terms in the sense of court, which is what legalese is, or contracts.
Oh yeah, but like they are a game mechanic specifically. They are the way that Beatrice can make a move countering Battler outside of the Twilights.
You can view them as truth from the cat box, that like you don't get to see what's in the cat box, but these things are true. Like they are kind of like stakes that are being planted in the ground that say like magic theory, murderer theory, everything has to confirm with this. This is a true statement regardless of your theory.
It's kind of like defining all of these situations have like an unknowable number of variables. So it's defining certain variables in order to get to a point where a checkmate is even possible.
Yeah, without the red truth, as Beatrice kind of says, Battler could just say there's not enough information. I can't even speculate. I could say whatever and you would have no way to respond either. It's the method by which the possibility space is narrowed down to something that is more manageable.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with it being like basically the only game mechanic we've got other than
Click.
the Epitaph murders.
Oh, so now that you say that, I recently got the mod working on my Steam Deck.
Oh, nice.
So if I'm sitting in the hospital waiting for my kid to come, I can keep reading. But as I did that, I got the menu up and everything like that. I clicked on the tips button, which I haven't clicked on in a long time, which is a lot of blank space, except for the Epitaph and the Grimoire. And if you click Grimoire, it's another menu of completely open space. So yeah, there's gotta still be a ton of game mechanics still to come. And the Epitaph is considered one, but the red text is not.
They get populated as you read those segments, so if you haven't read through those parts on that device, I think it wouldn't include them.
Yeah, you have to do the skip thing.
What parts?
Like, so episode 2.
Yeah, I had skipped into episode 3.
Yeah, if you didn't read through episode 2 on that device, it won't show the tips. Yeah, so you won't have any of the tips from the previous. It's annoying. I don't like that that's the way it works, but yeah.
All right, fine. I'm going to pull the game up on my computer right now.
Yeah, I agree. Once you unlock a thing, it should unlock all the tips.
See what it gives me.
You may just have to, at some point, just hold down the skip button and leave it alone.
I like how we're troubleshooting Capelli's grimoire.
Oh, yeah, letters. Oh, okay, I see. It's tips within the chapter itself.
But if you had read those other ones, they would have appeared there as well.
Oh, interesting. Ducks and onions are a primary ingredient for duck stew. This was apparently relevant for chapter 2.
Yeah, a lot of them are just like cultural things. Like, if you didn't know this thing,
here's like little things that it adds on.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they could have done that for Schrodinger's cat box. So.
Yeah, they might have. I don't actually know.
I'm sure we will when this scene ends. I'm sure when we start our next reading, I'll check the tips and see if anything new. Or maybe it only populates at the end of the chapter or episode.
I don't think so, but I don't know. Hayley, helpful note: if you go into the looking backwards at the text, it'll give you kanji definitions, or it'll give you some of the phonetics of the kanji used in certain words.
Oh,
I noticed that a lot in the upcoming Epitaph sequences. I was like, okay, I'm trying to remember what somebody said, and it's like river, and it has the kanji for river above it, and it's like, oh, okay.
Okay, thank you for that. That's based on my notes and me
Yeah, I was like, I think Hayley would find that useful.
Yeah. I do wonder if I shouldn't share my notes with everybody once we finish reading them. Maybe I'll make it some Patreon content for meta viewers. I mean, they're absolute stupidity, to be fair, so I don't think there's any value in anybody seeing them.
No, but it's the kind of thing people like.
I mean, we're including all this on the podcast, right?
Yeah.
Raw, uncut.
Not my notes. Oh,
behind the notes.
You ain't seen my notes, Ben.
The last thing I want to bring up on this reading is that Dancing Pipe is a sick track.
Oh, yeah.
I need to remember which one that is.
Dancing Pipe is the song that plays when Battler and Virgilia are just fucking crushing it together.
Cool. Yeah, that's a good song.
I don't recall it.
That is the one thing is when I watch this on like 1.5 speed because I'm watching the YouTube playlist.
You can't appreciate the music quite the same.
Well, every time a new song comes on, I put it back to normal to listen to it for a few minutes so I can get the new music experience.
Good.
It's so good.
My only main problem is that like one of the main songs they just introduced has I don't know if it's supposed to be like a digital triangle note, but it's like a eat, like it's a really high pitched like ding that I hate when music has that.
Me too. Yeah, the red text isn't in the tips.
No, it's not.
Interesting.
Thank you, Kyle.
I got Epitaph, letter 1, 2, 3, and 4 from episode 2. Witch's score sheet. Golden butterfly brooch for episode 2. And then tips for episode 1. So that was 4 letters in episode 2. We had 3 letters in episode 1, according to the tips. And then there's the rifle and the purgatory stakes.
Yeah.
But yeah, no red text. Interesting.
Back on the game board, the adults have herded everyone out of the lounge and begun working on solving the epitaph to kill time. They decide to have Kyrie, who hasn't taken a serious look at it before, try to solve it without any preconceptions. Kyrie says that the epitaph can be divided into 3 parts: finding the key, finding the golden land, and the treasures. Kyrie wonders what this beloved hometown of old is. Kenzo was born in Odawara, but none of the siblings think that this is the place meant. They have a place in mind, but don't say what it is at this time. They do, however, say that any Sweetfish rivers there might have disappeared as a result of large amounts of development there since then. The location has had a remarkable revival after the war, and apparently Eva went there to investigate as a vacation at one point. Given the way the epitaph implies you should have some clear piece of knowledge in mind at this point, Kyrie suspects that the Sweetfish River is a metaphor. Rosa says that Sweetfish makes her think of a family tree, and that the village you might find by going down it could be the one in Maria's name in Japanese kanji. However, given how little interest Kenzo has shown in Maria, and even at one point wanting Rosa to give her a different name, it's hard to believe his precious epitaph has anything to do with her. With no idea what the Sweetfish River might mean, they can't discern much else from the first section of the epitaph and decide to move on to the Twilights. Given that this key is used to determine the sacrifices, Kyrie thinks it unlikely that they're looking for a physical key. Instead, it seems more likely to be some kind of code or keyword. Kyrie suspects the sacrifices are a guide for playing some sort of word game with this keyword with 6 letters. However, their puzzling comes to an end as everyone begins to grow hungry. Everyone goes to get breakfast set up with limited supplies from the lounge, but Eva continues to try and work on solving the epitaph, snapping at Rosa for not being more helpful. Rosa does, however, point out that only the 10th Twilight refers to the Golden Land, Ogonhyo, as the home of the gold, Ogun no Sato, instead. Please forgive my pronunciation for any of that.
I was so happy to see Kyrie kick out some logic puzzles and just we've been waiting so long for her to get her teeth into the epitaph and start solving some shit.
Yeah.
It was just, again, nice to see them working on this mystery that's been dangling in front of us from the very beginning.
Yeah, agree. In fact, this is actually probably my favorite scene.
Yeah.
Aside from Beatrice unraveling. Because that was a moment within a scene, but this whole scene was really woke me back up again. If anybody saw the tweet I put out.
One thing I realized about this is in the whole working on the epitaph, the women are the only ones who do anything of substance here. Kraus, Rudolph, Hideyoshi, they don't fucking do anything of substance here.
Yeah.
Sounds like men.
Kyrie, Eva, Rosa, and Natsui brings the B4 paper, which I had to take a screenshot and send to Kyle. It's thank God we know the exact type of parchment that they used for this.
So you say that, but in other cultures, speaking as somebody that grew up in another culture, if you were getting a piece of paper, you would refer to it by its size. You'd get an A4 sheet of paper.
Oh. Huh.
So that wasn't weird to me, but I don't know what B4 paper is.
It's slightly bigger than a standard American letter size.
Right. An A4 is slightly smaller.
I liked this part, other than the fact that they were, the author was consciously leaving things out for the reader to not get.
Mm-hmm.
And this will go with the next few paragraphs. Well,
yeah.
I get it, but at the same time, it frustrated me. I get it from a reader's perspective.
I was absolutely bitching about this to Kyle.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Bitching about what? I don't understand. What was frustrating you?
No, it's in the next paragraph, not here.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah,
thought...
I mean, it was kind of here because, like, even Kyle mentions in that last paragraph that
that they know the location that Kenzo's referring to, and they just don't say it.
Yeah, they have a place in mind, but don't say what it is at this time. Like, there's that, and then there's everything that is about to be mentioned in the next few paragraphs.
Yeah.
Like,
no, but I love that because it still means I get to solve it. Like, they're not telling me. I can still figure it out.
And that's exactly what Kyle said, is that you will be very happy that the mystery is not taken from you.
Yeah.
I am so happy with the way that this panned out in the end.
Yeah, for me, I was like, I'm both happy with it and frustrated at the same time. Like, I feel like I'm so close to, like, I feel like I don't have enough information to solve this.
That's the point.
But the characters do, and that's frustrating.
Yeah.
That's weird. It's not something I'm used to in a mystery game or novel.
I don't think they do, though.
It's contradictory to how they've been writing these scenes before, where when you are inside of someone's head, you are actually inside of someone's head from the narrative perspective.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I mean, it's... I don't know. I love it. It's because it's still going to give me something to work with. And I don't think that they do have everything they need to solve it because I'm getting ahead, but they basically skip over half of the epitaph.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yes, they know the answer, but they haven't actually solved the whole riddle, is where I think this is going. They haven't solved it. They know what lies at the end, but like, that's it. And, oh, man. I reread my notes immediately after finishing reading last night. I went to bed so late. It was ridiculous. I don't know how I'm still awake.
I messaged you when you finished.
I hope we get a bit more of it by the end of this chapter. If I get more of it like in chapter 3, then it's like, okay, they're setting the scene for what we're literally about to read and not necessarily intending for us to take a week break to record a podcast. I'll be less upset then. But like I was telling Kyle, I was like, maybe it's just like the terminology that I see all the time. The thing that she thought of, the place that she had in mind. I'm like,
exactly.
That's like such a boring little tropey.
Oh yeah, that's just shit writing.
Yeah, that's what I was complaining about, Hayley.
I don't know if it's just shit writing. I feel like that is terminology that you see. I see in anime and all sorts of manga and like stuff that I read or watch. Is that like sort of phrasing, which I guess is just a translation thing. I don't know. I don't like it.
I like it. I like being able to still solve it. I'm with Hayley.
That's fair.
Let me Encyclopedia Brown this shit. Like,
again, I'm not upset that we don't have the answer to the riddle. I'm upset that the way that they lead us, the viewer, from they're all working on the epitaph and we're getting information and we're getting their thought process to, oh, what's behind my hand? How many fingers do I have? Oh, it could be anything. I does not tell it to me in a different way that's more engaging. This was not engaging to me. I don't like it.
See, this really was engaging to me. This is the bit I was most engaged in. I had Google open. Like, I was looking at what sweetfish were finally to see if they're a mackerel, because I'm still convinced it's kumasawa. I'm really not.
It's Swedish fish.
Yeah, we've established it's Swedish fish.
Yeah, that's what we decided last week. Yeah, absolutely.
I really have not been trying to solve it yet, because I feel like it's true that we don't yet have enough information, but
we don't.
But that's the thing is, that's why I enjoy watching Ava talking to herself, kind of.
When we do have enough information, like the moment we have enough information, Hayley will be the first one to solve it, because she's been working on it.
I feel like I'm pretty close.
I believe that.
People have solved the epitaph to the degree that Eva has solved it here, at this point in the story. It's very rare.
But to what degree? Does that mean that they know what place they're referring to? That's what I'm trying to, like, to what degree is it solved?
It's fairly solved.
If I, Capelli, were in the story, I have enough information to solve where the goal is.
As someone who's reading the story up to this point in the narrative, it is theoretically possible, with more leaps than you will have to make later, to solve basically what is not shown here.
I don't believe you.
Well,
I believe it, but that's with hindsight as well.
This is only what I've heard. I've heard that this has happened. I've heard someone say that it's been solved technically by the end of episode 2.
I don't feel the need to engage in this conversation and this topic anymore. I don't believe you. I don't believe that is true.
Oh man, I'm getting so much out of this whole discussion. Like it was beautiful to me. My notes go wild here. I'm going back into Discord to look up Ash's translations of the names. I've literally got screenshots of Ash's handwriting.
Yeah, the fact that we don't speak Japanese is probably going to be the biggest detriment to trying to solve it right now.
Yeah.
I think so. Which is...
That's what I was thinking.
So I've looked up how Anji's name is written in kanji as well. This is why Kyle was telling me to just hit the back button and look at the text because it's right there.
Jesus Christ. Kyle did tell me that he should tell you that you can't solve it yet because let me pull up exactly what he said.
Yeah, but Kyle had also told me that other people had solved it by the end of episode 2, or just after episode 2. So I'm in full balls to the wall on this now.
He said it's hiding it so that you can still go and solve it yourself. These are just hints. And I said, will I though? Hayley will, or she will die trying.
Yes. Definitely. And yeah, I'm with you, Becca. Eva talking about all of this in her inner monologue stuff was wonderful. The whole tree branching thing and the Maria stuff, which led me down to Anji because I thought that she was a teenager and maybe a fair baby, but I think she's actually younger and is Kyrie's her mom.
She's like a toddler. She's 3 or 5.
Yeah, so she would be the final. She would be the end of the river, right? If you think of the river as the Ishiramiya family, we haven't seen her yet, so there's more to come there. So I'm I can't wait. Do we get to the Anji?
Wait, who's Angie?
Battler's sister.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
She was mentioned one time in episode 1.
She's not on the island.
No, she's not. Or is she?
Allegedly.
Yeah, no, we know she's not on the island. There are only 18 humans on the island. We learned this.
Yeah. Is she a human, though?
No, other people aren't humans, and she is one of the humans. That's been my theory.
Yeah, we don't have legalese for definition of human yet. So
now this is so exciting, and I've got Krause's little joke, and he annoyed me as well. Seriously, the men in this are kind of mid, because he was
that's better than I thought you would give them.
In the West, they particularly like those word games, so I could see the father being obsessed with them, even though they are quite juvenile. I'm fuck off, Krause. Get in the fucking bin with your word games of juvenile. I love word games. This is why I love this riddle so much. And his suck my balls was really funny watching.
Sucker Mary barrelers. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really funny watching Natsui.
I immediately messaged Ben and I was like, I'm starting to like this guy. What was the line he had at the start of chapter 3?
He was really sexist at the opening for episode 3. He was horrible about Eva and Hideyoshi being under her thumb and all this shit. It's no, Hideyoshi's a supportive partner. He's doing what he's supposed to. He sent Natsui to go and do food in this one when she's actually actively trying to help them with the epitaph, and he's just sat there fucking sucking his thumb. Why did I start talking about Krause?
You brought him up.
Talking about the men being mid, which again, better than I thought you would rate them. So
yeah,
I mean, Hideyoshi is upper tier mid at best right now, but I want him to keep going up. So
yeah.
Hayley, is there a single Irishimiya guy that you like
from the family?
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
Do you like any guy in this?
Genji.
Not even from...
I like
Genji and Renove.
I like Genji. I like Renove.
Okay.
Canon. Do you like Canon?
Current. I don't mind Canon.
Mid.
Canon needs to work on his emotions.
He
and I know he's deliberately suppressed them, but Yeah.
Man, I hate telling a 16-year-old to work on their emotions. Like,
that's the problem, right? All the ones that I would want to like, I feel are quite young. And so
like Genji.
And George.
Yeah, okay. I do like Genji, and I don't mind Nanjo right now either, as well.
Big win for Ben.
We've not gotten enough of him to realize why he sucks too.
No, exactly. Like, I'm kind of indifferent about him at the minute, which is as close as I probably get to liking any of them that are not furniture. Oh dear.
In the meta world, Beatrice complains that Virgilia gave Battler too many hints and begs her for some assistance in turning things around. Virgilia tells Beatrice to think about the Aesop's fable The North Wind and the Sun, as well as the real victory conditions for her game, to make Battler accept her existence as a witch. Back on the game board, Eva's inner self chastises her for throwing away her last chance to achieve her dream of stealing the headship from Kraus. Eva's inner self begins helping her solve the epitaph, and Eva seems to have some kind of revelation on thinking of the Sweetfish River as some kind of metaphor, as something that somehow joins up with the ocean. She realizes that she needs to go to the archive in the guest house that stores the overflow of books from Kenzo's study in search of an atlas to check something. Waking from her dream, Eva quickly shrugs off the concerns of her siblings and makes an excuse to head to the archive. Finding the book she was looking for, she quickly discovers what she believes to be the Sweetfish River, and follows it, eventually uncovering the key. However, it doesn't seem to have the 6 characters, as Kyrie had suspected. However, with some clever thinking, she manages to come up with a 6-character key. Apparently, this key brings to mind a certain location and a certain way to offer the sacrifices as well.
So, what do we know the key is? Is it just a cipher?
Could be.
How does a cipher dictate kills?
I don't know why it also doesn't tell us why it's changing each episode.
Does it?
Like, and what the dictation of Natsui not getting killed in episode 1, when it was clear that the story was making us think that she should have been killed if not for that charm.
Mm-hmm.
So why does the key have a backup? Like, is there a backup, or does someone just need to go instead? I don't know.
Or does the key point to multiple possibilities, and Beato gets to choose the ones that she wants to go for?
That's interesting. I like that. So it actually points to, like, more than 6 people?
Well, what I was just thinking specifically where Capelli just said maybe it's a cipher, there are 6 sacrifices on the first Twilight, so if there are 6 characters, feasibly each character could be an initial for a person, but multiple characters have similar initials. Although thinking, like Genji, Goda.
I don't think the people matter for who was killed in each one. I think that's just arbitrary, all of the deaths. I think it's just a number of deaths per each one of those. It's so the way that I was reading it was that I don't know what I think makes sense, but it said no, but this makes sense. So first Twilight, you would subtract 6 letters from whatever this original phrase is. From the 6 letters that are chosen by the key, you would subtract it from the phrase. Then the second Twilight, the 2 letters that are next to each other in the alphabet, or sounds phonetically, however it's going to work, would then move to either end of the phrase or word, whatever the origin is that we don't know. So forming a new word, right, with each Twilight. And so then the third Twilight, so the new word is something to do with praising a name, because that's what the third Twilight says. And then 4 through 8, I think, is just stripping away different parts of potentially one kanji, like with the way it's described, because it changes depending on like how many strokes there are on there, right?
Hayley, I'm getting really excited by this theory. You're so smart.
Thank you. My notes for 9th and 10th Twilight are
also,
and also
followed by fuck you too, Eva. Interesting.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I don't think the people matter.
If Natsui was supposed to be chosen, what of her name is relevant to one of the other 6 that got chosen that they probably substituted out for her and the key stayed the same? I think that's probably the better connection to make, not that it changes every episode.
That's a really good place to start investigating, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't think it changes every episode.
Well, I'll also note that Virgilia says that Beatrice chose the servants for the first Twilight for this episode.
Yeah.
Yep, I remember that. And
what if all their names are so specifically chosen by Kinzo, with the exception of Nanjo and Maria. And that's why neither one of them have been a sacrifice yet, because their names don't fit whatever needs to be in the key. And that's why he wanted Maria to be named something else, because he obviously, he invited the whole family here to start the game. He needed Battler to come back to make it, a full game that it had to be. I guess he couldn't name any of the siblings either.
Did he need Battler to come back?
To have enough people? Like, it didn't need to be Battler specifically, but he needed, like, the 18th person.
It never specifies that you need 18 people.
Yeah, they need 13.
It just specifies that you need a certain amount of sacrifices.
Mm.
I think if he had any say of Battler being named, like he clearly wanted to with Maria, then yes, I think it's probably significant that he was there.
I don't know. Battler, Maria, Nanjo. I'm trying to think of everyone who hasn't been a first six sacrifice yet. Like, I don't think that it has to do as much with names, because like Kyrie's been sacrificed twice.
Yeah.
He didn't get to control her name.
Canon though has gone instead of Kyrie this time.
Maybe.
We can start looking at that later.
But yeah.
Further investigation is needed.
All right, Hayley, Becca, get on it.
I can't wait to see the comments of this one, and if people are on the same page as me, or people that are smarter than I can maybe figure it out.
Yeah. We're working together with our community to solve these mysteries, so if you have some thoughts, as long as you don't know the actual answer, please post them in the Discord. In the rain, Eva follows some kind of guidance and arrives at an underground stone staircase. At the bottom of the stairs, she finds a door with, "On the 10th Twilight, the journey ends, and you shall reach the home of the gold," written on it in red. Inside is a lavishly decorated room, and of course, 10 tons of gold. Ev is ecstatic that she'll be able to save her husband's business, and then, once the rest of the family ruins themselves and disappears, George can use the gold to revive the Ushirmiya family's honor, becoming the true successor of the Ushirmiya family. Eva and herself appears, and they congratulate each other on their victory. However, on the way back out, Eva runs into Rosa, who has also solved the Epitaph. Rosa laments having given Eva that hint, and says that she shouldn't have worried so much about the sweet fish part, but Eva disagrees, saying that it was a wonderful hint. Rosa says that she has no interest in the headship anyways, and as long as she gets the portion of the gold the siblings had already agreed upon, she has no problem backing Eva as the new head. They both size each other up for a moment and see if the other would try to shoot them and take all the gold, but quickly lower their guns and return to see the gold themselves again. Returning to the guest house through the rose garden, Rosa congratulates Eva. Rosa is excited to reveal the gold to Krause and see his reaction, but Eva wants to keep the gold hidden for now. However, Rosa reminds Eva that the agreement was that whoever found the gold would announce it immediately. Eva, however, is certain that Krause will find a way to take advantage of the fact that he controls the island of Rokkenjiima, and it will be difficult to liquidate so much gold quickly. She wants time to make sure she'll be able to prevent Krause from taking advantage. Rosa is certain that Kinzo is alive, and the deaths of the servants were faked to push them to solve the Epitaph. She says that she'll wait until tomorrow morning, when the seagulls cry, but no later. Meanwhile, Eva Zinn herself clings to the gold and decrees that she will never share it with anyone. Beatrice appears before her and says that she acknowledges her. She gives Eva and herself Kinzo's signet ring. Beatrice says that she passes on to her not only the gold and the headship, but also her name and powers as an endless witch. In a magical ceremony, Eva Zinn herself is granted a magical staff and a new dress befitting of her new title, and even the portrait switches over to depict her. In the meta-world, Battler is confused about what is going on. Virgilia calms him, saying that all this means is that Eva has received the title of Golden Witch from solving the Epitaph, and might call herself that in the future. Since Beatrice has given Eva her name, she asks Battler to give her a suitable new name. However, he says that Beato is good enough, to Beato's dissatisfaction. Battler is unsure of what to think of all this, but seeing Eva so happy, he can't help but applaud in celebration of the culmination of all her efforts. Beato joins in, and the two of them applaud the new witch, Eva-Beatrice.
Real quick, before we get into more serious discussion, I just kind of want to point out at the very end, I love how petulant and pouty Beato gets when Battler won't give her a better name, and how upset she is that he won't flirt back with her. And that's all. I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah. Making something cute. And he's like, no, Beato's fine.
Hayley, you want to talk about what you were right about?
What were you right about?
What was I right about? I feel like I'm right about a few things, to be honest.
That Beato clearly is super into Battler and wants to become a thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
In that moment was
Oh,
like, oh, that's what
definitely.
it is. And then Renove basically all but confirms it. It's like immediately.
Becca was on that train as well.
Yeah, I brought this up last episode.
I was there. Hayley brought it up 2 episodes ago, which is why I know it.
We'd mentioned this a while ago. I think like the end of episode 2 is when I first heard Hayley mention it. I was like, yeah, I definitely see that.
They're pulling each other's hair on the playground, man.
Yes.
I love it. I love it so much.
Well, and her acting a bit more juvenile here is like, oh, okay, like it makes a lot of sense where she's at emotionally and maturity level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And to like
it's more matching
to
Battler.
that end, it is like kind of nice to see Battler like win their previous like duel, and like he chooses not to belittle her, even though he's like I could easily do to her what she did to me, and he's just like not doing it. Like that to me is a point, like that's a moment that I like Battler a bit more, is when he's just like, not I'm going to be the bigger person, ha. He's just like, what are you? No, I'm not going there. I'm just not. He's like, this is an evil person, and why would I play with her?
Yeah.
I've seen her kill my family multiple times at this point. Sorry, let me put quotation marks around that entire sentence. Allegedly. But it's just like, Becca's fascination with Beatrice is also why Battler isn't necessarily going to stoop to her level, because Beatrice is evil. She showed that from the first 2 episodes for sure. And unless there's some really big turning point to the motivation behind what happened in the first 2 episodes, I think that if Battler were to flirt back with her, he is then stooping to her level, and that actually makes him more evil of a character, if not more entertaining of a character.
Oh, Ben, I don't necessarily think that she's definitely evil. We don't know enough yet. I think she could be an arbiter of justice.
She's evil right now.
She's evil right now.
That doesn't mean she stays evil.
She is taking pleasure and glee from being sadistic to people.
Yeah.
And that's why I added the thing of unless there's some big change to the motivations. But what we have seen so far is what Capelli just said. Pleasure and glee from torture. Literal torture of Rosa at the end of episode 2. That's evil.
Yeah, but Rosa's done some real fucked up shit to her own kid.
So
Whoa,
that doesn't
whoa.
mean that it's on the same level.
Are we really getting to this point of morality? If you take pleasure in
What?
torturing someone who deserves
Justice.
it, does not change the fact that you are taking
Justice.
pleasure in torturing somebody.
She's 1,000 years old. They were different times.
Oh my god.
What?
What kind of people are they raising across the pond?
She's 1,000 years old. She also had all of her agency robbed of her. She was trapped in a homunculus. She's been sequestered away for decades.
That's not Ava's fault.
Yeah, it is. Sins of the father. Generational.
I'm hard-pressed to believe if you guys
It's,
actually believe this, or if you're making a bit.
I can't tell. I mean, Rosa is the one that technically freed her, and she's torturing her. We learned that. Rosa is the one that got her out.
I just have a feeling that we're going to see a lot more fucked up shit than we've already seen.
Uh-huh.
We're not even a third of the way through this entire story at this point.
That doesn't belittle what we have seen, though.
I'm not saying that to belittle what we've already seen. I think this is a story about a lot of complicated individuals, none of whom are necessarily good or bad.
Yeah. I don't think there's pure evil in here.
I disagree.
There is pure evil in sacrificing your family to satisfy your own wants and desires.
Oh, Kinzo.
Kinzo.
There
yeah.
is pure evil in
Yeah.
taking unbridled joy and pleasure in the suffering of others.
Yep.
I don't really care what your background and how you justify it. That is an evil act.
I'm not saying they're not good characters. They are amazing characters.
How are we sure that she actually took pleasure in it?
You heard the voice actress going nuts with her laughter.
Here's the thing. I can enjoy all the evil shit that Beatrice does because she's not real. Like, this is fiction.
Okay, sure. I'm with you there, but I'm still gonna call her evil.
Yeah, same.
Okay.
And you enjoying the evil side of the story does not make you a bad person by any means.
No, it does not, because this is a story. This is fiction. We hope. So...
The way that every episode starts with there's no possible way that this can be connected to anything real is like, you're selling that a little hard. Are you double bluffing me? Is that what that is? Is this a confession?
Every accusation is a confession.
Listen, the jury's just still out.
I don't think so!
I can't even say it seriously. I'm sorry.
As much as I don't want to see Beatrice like get a redemption, whatever, I think she's a great character. She doesn't need a redemption arc or however that would look like. This is still a very anime tropey game, and we have lots of story left to go, and I am completely prepared for that to be what happens.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that. I just also don't want to belittle what has happened.
Yeah.
Nor do I want to say that other people aren't going to get to her level or even lower on the good at the top, evil at the bottom scale.
I think we're gonna start seeing that with Eva. Absolutely, I think we're gonna start seeing that.
I think Eva. I think there are other characters here that are going to be even worse, and that's why at the end of the day, Beatrice won't seem that bad, even if what has happened so far has been really bad.
Yeah, I could agree with you. I could see the story going there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's... I don't know.
I mean, to add on to like the evil thing, I literally put this in our notes, is that there's a lot of the love of money is the root of all evil. And Eva, like, basically trying to position herself in a way to take all of the money, all of the family's money for herself, that's pretty fucking messed up, considering, A, she wouldn't have gotten there without Rosa or Kyrie, and Natsui brought her the paper that she used, right? Everybody contributed in some way, but she wants it all. Because in her mind, she's the most justified for her suffering, even though they've all suffered.
Yeah, Eva went down in my estimation a little in this.
It's also the childish version of her.
Well, what is this inner self, too? Like, this inner self is not normal. It's not...
Yeah, that's what we need to more about. Refers to herself as a witch.
Yeah.
Or no, the adult calls the younger a witch.
It doesn't feel like the same person.
Not at all.
Weirdly enough.
Not at all.
Like, I know that we're supposed to think that she's the same person. I don't think she is.
The thing that I think connects that is Lambda Delta's recommendation, referral. I blank on the exact word that they used.
Yeah.
I think that they say, you couldn't have become a witch unless I had recommended you to become one. That, to me, implies a potential lack of free will. Or it implies that every round of the game is unique in that sense where this could happen. Even to the point where when this game ends and starts over, Eva might not be a witch anymore. And that's why Beato is so chill about it.
Maybe.
That's the thing that's like kind of caught me off guard, is that Beato is just very much, yep, you won, kiddo. Here's everything I own. Here's all my power. All right, have fun. See you later. That's so weird.
See, that hasn't caught me off guard, because I've been saying that I think that this is some kind of becoming Beatrice.
She wants to let go, yeah.
And this just expands on that, and it's like, okay, there can be more than one, which we saw at the beginning of this episode anyway with the Virgilia. So I feel like the reading that we've done so far for this episode has kind of led us to this, where it doesn't matter how many Beatrices there are, really.
Well, there's only ever one person holding it, but yeah, people who've held the titles, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it sort of back to like the cyclical stuff I've been saying, like this could be happening to multiple families at all times, right?
I think Higurashi existing proves that too. I mean, we haven't read that one, but...
The only reason that the Ushirimiya family specifically is being tortured is because Kinzo captured that iteration of Beatrice. At least that's what we've been led to believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
And also, from everything we've seen of Virgilia, she's a much more tempered, patient, like
composed,
kind, poised, seemingly benevolent witch.
I'm not
I don't know if kind is the right word.
I was going to say the same thing.
I think it's what she's trying to give off, but I don't know if
what we've seen of her so far.
Yes. No, that's fair. That's fair, but
she's not cruel. Yeah, we can give you that.
She's not as cruel yet.
What has she done that's cruel?
I mean, the only cruel thing she's done is call Beatrice a child. I wouldn't call that cruel.
I said yet. I don't think that she has been yet, but I don't think her true intentions have been revealed either.
She fucking summoned Odin, which is like the most badass thing anyone's done in this story so far.
No, it's never happened.
Here's the other thing that leads me to believe that Virgilia has a different temperament and tends to be more benevolent than Beatrice is because, well, actually, I can't remember whose point of view it was we were seeing it in, but I guess it's her point of view. I think she tells Battler she hoped that her successor would not do all of the things that she's doing.
Yeah.
And we know that Kinzo's Beatrice, Beato, basically thinks that Virgilia is lame and dumb and stupid. She refers to her teacher in very denigrating ways.
That's very par for the course as far as a pupil becoming the master sort of trope.
It's specifically in a way where it's like she clearly has no respect for her and thinks that she's soft is the reading that I have of that.
Yeah.
And so that leads me to believe that Virgilia Beato is more of a benevolent Beatrice.
I don't think it's lack of respect, but as much as I think it's like, look at what I have. This could have been you. You could have done this and showed me this, but I surpassed you. Therefore, I think less of you, but I don't think it's a full lack of respect.
No, that's not what I meant. She thinks that she's soft.
Well, because of what she had to do to become an endless witch, which I'm trying to remember if it's explicitly said what she had to do. But basically, she said, "I did it. You didn't have what it takes to do what I became."
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah, which leads into that. Yeah, I'm harder than you. I'm stronger than you. You are soft and weak. I wonder how far back we're gonna go with these witch iterations. Like, are we gonna meet Virgilia's master? Are we gonna we kind of see how witches grow as a commune, but who was the first witch? Is that going to become a plot point? How did they come to be?
I can't see that being necessary, but I haven't seen any of this be necessary.
That's a very fair point.
Yeah. I mean, it is when it reveals, right? But it's hard to predict what's going to happen, is what I mean. I mean, Battler called Virgilia his advisor, so I think there is some inkling within Battler as well that he is setting up to become a Beatrice of sorts.
I deadass thought that she was going to teach this kid magic.
Yeah, I think she's going to.
When she's like, "Let me teach you something about magic," I was like, is he about to learn something that he doesn't believe in? That's a cool twist, and how that... Oh, no, she's going to explain more logic puzzle stuff.
We do get a bit more about how magic works, though.
Yeah.
We have the strength of your feelings became your magic. I think Beatrice says that to baby Eva.
Yeah. Why did young Eva become the witch? Why not adult Eva? Why are all witches little girls?
Because young Eva was the one in her mind telling her, yes, so that's the thing that you need to look up. Keep going. Because Eva kept hitting dead ends.
Yeah. She solved it.
Yeah.
Young Ava's technically the one who solved it.
Yeah.
As I was reading your notes, you said something at the very end. Oh, right. Yeah, Hayley, your notes said, this doesn't feel satisfying, this whole Eva ascending. It all seems a bit fake and decoy-ish. It's too obvious. And I was like, I felt the exact same way getting to the end of this reading. It's it feels huge, but it also feels kind of flat, anticlimactic.
Flat.
Which I think resetting the game is going to do something. I don't know. I mean, because Beatrice tells her that you will need to create your own resurrection ritual. What is that going to mean?
Mm-hmm.
And is she going to be so inexperienced and screw up? Because she already has such a high opinion of herself. We've already seen Rosa is practically on the same level. Kyrie is up there. Battler's been going through this whole thing. Maria is an option for people who could easily defeat her in whatever she sets up and just immediately lose the title. And Beato's just gonna be like, well, you sucked at it. What can I tell you?
I can see Rosa beating Eva. That is a real possibility.
Oh yeah.
I expect her resurrection ritual, because everything that we've been going through with the sacrifices is the ritual to resurrect Beato.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the only reason that I think we're getting a consistent time loop and it hasn't actually happened to fully resurrect her is because Battler is the one holdout. So that's why this game exists.
Probably.
Because for Beatrice to exist, Battler has to accept her. So, like, we are currently in Beato's resurrection ritual. What will Ava's be? No fucking idea.
We're gonna see how this game plays out, and my theory is that Eva's gonna be the one committing a bunch of killing and sacrifices right now, and Battler's gonna be presented with, your loved one is doing this in front of you, and it's gonna come to a head with Rosa saying she found the gold, and Eva getting really mad, and probably gonna start committing some twilights.
I don't think Eva's making it to the end of this episode, personally.
Which one?
Physical Eva.
Okay. The game piece on the board.
I think that she will be one of the Twilights. I think that there is something that has happened in the first 2 episodes that we just don't know about. Could be those like bullets things that like they like the quick cuts. But I think that we now have enough background for this episode 3 that when they reveal that there's a bunch of gold, that people are going to go nuts.
They've all got guns.
They all have guns.
The paranoia is gonna come out, man.
Yeah, that's where the paranoia from what the previous 2 episodes had at the beginning of this day. Now it's going to come out now that 2 people have found the gold.
Who do you think the Twilight of the 2 together is gonna be? Because I've got a top 2 people I think it's gonna be.
I have a pair that I think would be very interesting. Would actually be Rosa and Maria.
Ooh.
I think that would be the most interesting.
I think I agree with that. That would be most interesting. But I think Kyrie is simply too OP, so I think it's her and Rudolph.
Her and Rudolph again, and they can't survive past Twilight
Nope,
2
can't
because
do it.
They need to be nerfed. Yep. Got it.
What if it's Rosa and Ava? Because they've gotten close.
That's my thought as well. Yeah.
That's what Ben thought.
They're not close. I can't.
No, but they are close in that they've both found the gold.
They are right now.
They are.
Depends how you interpret close.
Don't see it.
At the very least, what defines them as close by the epitaph, they meet the criteria.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think Eva will do it to shut Rosa up.
Is it also the part in the epitaph where it says will rip, what is it, the rip apart the 2 that are close, the rest, those that remain will rip apart the 2 that are close? Like, what has, like, we've always just focused on the 2 that are close and not those that remain will rip apart.
It's not people. I don't think the people matter, like, truly.
I think in chapter 2 they like discuss how they're disgracing Canon's name by like saying, "Oh, clearly he did it," and you see their ghost soul counterparts of him and Jessica being
Gotcha.
like, "Oh my goodness!" And then Battler says, "No good. It's no damn good," and his disbelief in it kind of stops that ritual from taking place in a way. I don't know. That's a thing that just popped in my head as I was saying it, but
yeah,
but episode 1 was Eva and Hideyoshi. They were the 2 that were close, but it felt very clear that whoever they were, stabbed them.
Is it just that the stakes, the purgatory stakes, are those who remain?
He
who remain?
But those are the first.
Maybe
those are the first stakes to get used.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't think that who it is matters. I don't think it's about physical proximity or about emotional proximity to people. I do think it's just about letters, and it's a word puzzle. I'm entirely convinced of that now.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think that the answer to the 10th Twilight is wherever the entrance to this vault is. Because they don't actually tell us. They tell us about them walking through the rose garden afterwards. So I'm speculating that it could be The shrine that was destroyed?
Yes.
Um,
Either the shrine, the beach, or the docks. Like, those are my top 3 because it leads to the ocean.
yeah, I think it's either the shrine or it could be the, like, pagoda thing that's in the Rose Garden where George proposed.
Oh, the gazebo?
The gazebo, yeah. Or a third unknown location.
That'd be interesting.
Eva and Rosa do leave, and they're in the Rose Garden in the
Yeah.
next scene where they're talking.
But we don't know how long it took them to get there. Like,
Well, someone said the clock only moves forward like 30 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, 10 to 10:30.
right. So it's probably within the grounds of the main mansion then. So maybe not the shrine, because that's up on the cliffs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when it existed, it was up on the cliffs.
But still potentially not that far.
Well, we will leave further speculations on that for next time. Is there any other stuff y'all want to cover before we wrap things up here?
I want to talk about who we think is saying the last line of the next assigned reading, but I don't know if that's fair game to discuss. Because the last line of this assigned reading, there was, like, even though you got hints in what was about to happen, you had no way of knowing that that the story would go this way. And this one is like, who is speaking here?
I will bet dollars to donuts that is Eva crying that Hideyoshi is dead.
Natsui, I think.
Natsui about Kraus?
I don't know who it's about, but Natsui. Just the way that the speech, dear, answer me, dear.
Or Rosa to Maria.
I think it's Rudolph about Kyrie.
All right, cool. We'll each have a different theory.
All right.
Well, Becca didn't say hers.
I'm sorry, I was fact checking to make sure I hadn't gotten that time frame wrong because I was concerned I had, since we're predicating so much on that fact. But I was correct. The end of the video 45 on the YouTube playlist ends at 10:30 and it starts at 10 a.m. So it only takes them 30 minutes. What were we talking about?
Well, let me give the actual context, because they were speaking before I got to say it. Next week, we'll be reading about 3 hours of the VN, ending on the line, "Dear, answer me, dear, Whaaaaaaaaaaaaahhhh," after which the clock advances from 1:17 p.m. to 1:30 p.m., which is videos 46 through 48 on the YouTube playlist.
We were speculating about who was saying that line and about who.
We've each had a different answer so far.
Well, mine is that it's Hideyoshi about Eva. He's a wife guy.
Oh, flipped.
Oh, I thought it was Eva about Hideyoshi.
But dear is something that feels weird for me to hear Eva say, but it feels like Hideyoshi would say it. I don't know.
I can see that. I could also see it being Eva about George.
Dear boy.
I could see that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Clearly, they hit a deer, and they're just talking about that.
There are 18 humans on this island, and one deer.
And exactly one deer. All right. Well, post down in the Discord below or on the YouTube comments who you think this is about before you get into the next reading. It'll be fun to see what people think. And once again, thank you guys for joining us as we read through this. I'm glad we're finally kind of getting back to a bit more even ground on the mystery versus fantasy. We'll be having more of that in the future now that Team Mystery can defend itself a little better. We'll have to take some more sides on that in the future. So look forward to that. And thank you all for joining us. And remember to think off meta.